UCLA basketball plays coy on the status of its injured players before the Sweet 16. Paul George is likely missing the rest of the regular season. And Alex Grinch speaks. But what the hell is he talking about? Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. So it is March 23rd, 2023. It is a gloomy Thursday morning out in Portland. All the leaves are brown and the sky is gray. But let's talk some LA sports. Bring a little sunshine into the day. If you like the content that we put out, click the like button. Click the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. It's why I put this thing together in the first place, guys. So before we go through the news and notes and look at the scoreboard, yesterday, Anthony Davis scores 27 points as the Lakers knock out Phoenix 122-111, a game they absolutely had to have. The Lakers are currently in the 10th slot. That's the play-in tournament. They have 9 games to go in the regular season to try and advance and or hold on. Meanwhile, today, this is going to be a prize fight. Gonzaga versus UCLA in the Sweet 16. The game's at 6:45. The winner will face UConn or Arkansas in the Elite Eight. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that game in just a minute. Finally, Oklahoma City's in town to play the Clippers at 7:30. Yeah, again. And now we're going to start praying that nobody else on the Clippers gets injured. Get your rosaries ready. But I really want to start off with a little bit about tonight's game. We've been talking about it over the last few days. And Coach Mick Cronin only said, "We'll see," when talking about the status of injured Bruins Adem Bona and David Singleton for tonight's game. Now, for those of you who don't recall, Bona injured his shoulder a couple of weeks ago. He aggravated it last week. Singleton, in the end of the second round game, or toward the end of the second round game, turned an ankle. I believe they're playing. I think this whole "we'll see" thing is kind of goofy, because if Bono was really hurt in the shoulder, they would have it up in a sling. He's not wearing one. Singleton's walking around like he doesn't have any problem in his lower appendages. But again, let's just play the game, shall we? If Bona can't go, Cronin is likely to go with Kenneth Nwuba. And if I mispronounce the gentleman's name, my bad. I apologize. As for Singleton, you're probably looking at being replaced by Dylan Andrews. Now, it is by far the most compelling Sweet 16 matchup, not just because that they're evenly matched, not just because Gonzaga's offense and UCLA's defense is strength on strength, but because they've been battling each other for years in the NCAA tournament. Not often, but every time it's been a barn burner. Do you remember a guy named Adam Morrison? He was a lottery pick. He had a cup of coffee with the Lakers before he dropped out of sight. He was the guy who put Gonzaga on the map with the wild hair and the porn stash. And Gonzaga played UCLA in the NCAA tournament. UCLA rallied furiously late and knocked him out. Morrison left the court in tears. And then, of course, Gonzaga returned favor about 2 years ago with a late shot to eliminate the Bruins. Having said that, I'm going to basically stick with my pick of UCLA, because there's a lot of sports writers right now who they're getting all wishy-washy. Ooh, we can't decide. I said UCLA a couple of days ago. I'm going with Gonzaga now. I like the cut of UCLA's jib. However you cut jibs. I don't even know what jibs are, but I like the cut of their jib. The reason that I'm not flip-flopping is because I get it. Drew Tim can take over a game, but the Bruins have more offensive options. It doesn't just have to be Jaime Jaquez Jr., and they clearly play better defense. There are more paths to victory for UCLA, and that's why I'm taking them. Having said that, if you are on your way to Vegas, don't use me when you go to the sports book. Paul George of the Clippers has a sprained knee and will be evaluated in 2 weeks. Now, to be official, the Clippers are saying 2 to 3 weeks. But if the Clippers start losing places in the standings, it's going to be 2 weeks. It's going to be 2 weeks. Why? Well, because the regular season also ends in 17 days. That's why you'd kind of want Paul George in the first round or the play-in tournament, wouldn't you say? So, 9 games left for the Clippers. Do you really want to go without Paul George in all of them? Just saying. They are 1.5 games up on 2 of the play-in teams. One of those teams, by the way, Oklahoma City, who they're playing tonight. So if you're a Clippers fan, and they do exist, you are literally dropping to your knees and praying to your walking upright God that Terrence Mann can fill the gap just enough. Now, for those of you who didn't see the injury, Paul George, he goes up for a rebound. A Thunder player goes up at the same time. They bang knees. It's basically not the worst thing that could happen. But George did hyperextend the knee, and that's pretty bad. If you recall, injury problems sank the Clippers in the playoff tournament last year, or play-in tournament last year. They didn't even make it out. There's also the frightening thought about what could happen to the Clippers long term because of this injury to Paul George. The belief is that there is a tidal window of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George that is rapidly closing. George, for example, next year is going to be 33. And both of them, George and Leonard, are going to be free agents in 2024. And oh, by the way, the Clippers sent about 90 draft picks to Oklahoma City to acquire Paul George in the first place? So you want to try and strike the iron while the iron is still able to get hot. Not liking the Clippers' chances if Paul George is out for an extended period of time. So, USC defensive coordinator Alex Grinch has been conspicuously silent since the Trojans were steamrolled by both Utah and Tulane, the latter being the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Day. And I must confess, I read every quote that he had, every single quote, and he's not accepting any responsibility for it. Not a single iota. He's talking about what the Trojans are going to allegedly change for next year. He's talking about what the players have to improve upon. He is not taking any personal responsibility for those disastrous results. And that's a real problem to me. That is a massive problem, because I've been saying it both about UCLA and USC ever since both schools lost in the last minute by getting their defenses shredded. The first school to sanity wins. The first school to remember that you have to play quality defense is the winner, right? So, now what is Grinch talking about? Not taking responsibility. He's talking about training. He's talking about player fitness. Maybe changing the drills to enhance performance. What did he not say? That maybe he should have called a better game against Tulane? That maybe once he realized that Tulane was about to rush for 300 yards in a game, that maybe, just maybe, he might want to put more guys in the box instead of sticking with a ridiculous 3-3-5 alignment, which automatically gave Tulane running lanes? But it's training. Yeah, that's the difference. Like, I have great days in the gym too, but you don't see me going out there pretending that I can stop Tulane if I do. What are we talking about here? There's more to it than just the gym. At some point, you have to. The Oklahoma drill is not going to keep Tulane from trampling USC last year. It's not the drills. So, yeah, that is just not a good sign for what we hear out of Heritage Hall. The LA Times fancies Clayton Kershaw as the Dodgers' #2 starter. Now, yesterday was Kershaw's final Cactus League start, and he gives up 2 runs in 5 innings against Cleveland. Kershaw said he feels great physically. The Dodgers have not announced their opening day starter because now Major League Baseball, like every other sport, has to pre-package everything and hand it over to ESPN. There's going to be a release show. I don't know if it's on ESPN. It could be on MLB.com. No idea. But they are planning a release show at the same time. All the opening day pitchers get announced in the same time. And it bothers me. It really bothers me. Everything is prepackaged for maximum media exposure, which is just garbage. Oh, we're going to release the NCAA tournament bracket and make it a 5-hour show on ESPN. You're just going to have to wait to see if UCLA is getting a top seed. What about the NFL Combine? We're watching prospects run 40-yard dashes, actually like the 7th round of the NFL draft matters. Who are we kidding? They're pre-packaging everything. I don't want to see the opening day starters treated like it's a Hollywood award show. Where's the envelope? Starting for the Dodgers, it goes to Julio Urias. We already knew it was going to be Julio Urias. You know it, I know it, we all know it. Go back to the old way. Let Dave Roberts just say 2 days into spring training who the starter is, and we all move on with our lives. Meanwhile, for the Dodgers, there are 17 cuts to go for the big league roster. They have also signed a rookie right-hander named Jake Pilarski. He's a kid from Georgia. Now, he went undrafted out of college, but he went to one of those baseball mechanic places that you might be starting to hear about. Like the Dodgers, they found one in Seattle. They're sending a bunch of hitters up there, major leaguers actually, like Max Muncy, to enhance their swing. So anyway, this guy, Pilarski, he goes to a baseball mechanics place, and all of a sudden, and after just a couple of months, he's cracking 100 miles an hour regularly. Yeah. And Dave Roberts was absolutely giddy over the whole thing. Now, to be fair, Pilarski's not making the opening day roster either. He's too green. He's going to single A. But let's be real. If you can crack 100 miles an hour on your pitching consistently and get it over the plate, the Dodgers might wind up having the hillbilly Aroldis Chapman, as far as I can tell. I wonder what his coming-in music would be, coming from Georgia. Be like bluegrass or somebody blowing on a jug. It's not exactly Eric Gagne coming out to Welcome to the Jungle, but hey. We mentioned yesterday that the Rams lost their punter, their kicker, their long snapper, all to free agency. And I wondered aloud whether the kick returners would split, and behold, Brandon Powell signs with the Minnesota Vikings, so they don't even have a kick returner now. By the way, linebacker Troy Reeder also left the Rams to go to Minnesota. Now, the reason that I'm not wilding out over these moves is that I've resigned myself to the fact that LA's defense is just going to be god-awful next year. There's no way of getting around it. And by the way, with the exception of kicking field goals, the Rams' special teams last year was just as bad as the defense will be this year. So change is afoot, and it's about time. Also for the Rams, former defensive back David Long Jr. has signed with the Vegas Raiders. He played in LA for 4 years. He had only 2 picks and 7 passes defended. Maybe he'll get more playing time in Vegas. You may have heard, switching to the NBA, about this analytics figure, points per 100 possessions. It is most often used as a rating to see how effective either the defense or the offense is. Since the NBA trade deadline, the best defensive team in the NBA is allegedly the Lakers. Who knew? You could credit Jared Vanderbilt for a lot of that, by the way, because after all, if it's since the trade deadline, Vanderbilt has been their defensive specialist. Apparently, also teaming Vanderbilt with Anthony Davis and LeBron James has been extremely effective. Per 100 possessions, LA outscores their opponents by more than 34 points when the three of them are on the court at the same time. Now, I say that's allegedly, because you could poke holes in a lot of stats. And in addition to that, James has missed a lot of time since Vanderbilt joined the Lakers. So the sample size is very small. We don't know how that would hold out over a long period of time. Somebody on my comments feed yesterday expressed skepticism of the Lakers making the playoffs. It's a fair thing to speculate about, so I'm not clowning the man. He's a good dude. He seems like a good dude. All I'm going to say is, in response to him and anybody else who thinks the Lakers are going to miss the playoffs, if they do in fact miss, it is all their fault. They have a cake schedule now. Phoenix was one of their tougher games. They're going to have nothing but cupcakes to steamroll the rest of the way in. Reese Dixon Waters and Malik Thomas entered the transfer portal out of USC basketball. Now, Dixon Waters was the sixth man of the year in the Pac-12 conference. So that'll sting a little bit for USC. And I liked watching him play, but he's not stupid either. I think he knew. I think he saw the writing on the wall. You know, the Trojans were adding an elite point guard recruit, and he's probably figuring that he didn't have a clear path to the starting lineup. So Godspeed to him. I hope he lands on his feet with a school that's better suited to his needs. The Chargers have re-signed cornerback Keemon Hall. He's primarily a special teamer. And Sean Dursey has returned to the Kings practice rink. He is now skating with the team and bumping around for the first time since he was injured on March 6th. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread, because this is going to be a lot of fun. I think they even like college basketball in Portland. I'm definitely watching the Sweet 16 tonight. And let me know what you think about the Clippers' chances or USC's defense. And if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.